All right, folks pouring in to the Zoom room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And glad you're all here today. We are live on Facebook. Welcome to all of you. Glad you're here today too. And we're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes here as we let people pour in and get situated. And then we're going to let some tea pour in and get situated as well. So be patient as folks come and take their seats, and the show will go on momentarily. If you're just joining us now on Zoom, please do feel free to go down to the chat room and let us know where you're coming in from. And if you do, please change the drop down to say all participants and attendees. That way everybody can see where you're coming in from. All right, we got folks coming in from the UK, Colorado Springs, more UK. We got London, UK. We got, oh, it whizzed by. Anna Maria, UK. Germany, Jersey. Those are really close together. That's why they sound so similar. Charlotte, North Carolina. Grand Prairie, Alberta. Indiana, Houston, Charleston. Ooh, Charleston. Rochester, New York. Dustin's here from the teacher training course. That's great. Or Monterey, California, right down the road. Kathmandu, Nepal. Hi, Sanjeev. Glad you could join us from so far away. Russia, also far. Hi, Pavel. Rosedale, New York. This is great. So another from the UK. A lot from the UK today. UK is represented in force. Glad you all are here. And we are about to get started. So I've got some tea, but my mug isn't as interesting as Lee's. And Lee has a pretty interesting mug too. Just a little more housekeeping. If you're here and you want to ask a question, rather than put it in chat, go find the Q&A button. We're going to answer questions that find their way to the Q&A button, but not try to fish them out of chat. If you're on Facebook, then we do have somebody fishing them out of comments on Facebook, but they're over there, not over here in the chat necessarily. So please do put your questions in the Q&A box. Later, when the time is right, we'll take folks who want to raise their hands. But if you do it now, I'm just going to lower them before we get started, because last time we had a couple people who had wandered off during the intervening hour or so. So we'll ask for hands to raise on Zoom right when we're ready to start taking folks up on stage. So those of you who got here and just immediately raised your hands, I do apologize, but you'll have to do it again. However, otherwise, I think that's pretty much everything. If you're on Facebook and you want to be on Zoom, somebody posted a comment down there. You're welcome to come and join us. It should have the link. And if you're down there and you want to ask questions and you want to stay on Facebook, totally fine. Just put them in a comment and somebody will bring them on over to us during the Q&A portion. All right. Now that that's all out of the way, hey, Lee.
Hey, Ben. Hey, everybody.
What's shaking, man?
Oh, happy to be on another tea talk.
Me too.
I mean, it's fun to have tea by yourself, but why not have tea with people from all over the world?
I agree. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great.
Well,
I'm drinking a tea from Buddha Teas.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they're big fans of Qigong, and they sent me some great teas. They have mushroom blends in them, so they're great immune tonics with spearmint and peppermint. I'm actually drinking two teas. I'm drinking the Buddha tea in this cup, and I'm drinking Pu'er in this cup. So wow. I just thought I'd up my game because, you know, this is like our 5th or 6th tea with Lee. So now I got 2 teacups and this tea mug.
I was admiring that.
Those are my twins when they were babies. They're like yin and yang. One's brown haired, one's blonde haired. And they were really fun to hang out with. Can you guys see that?
It's pretty adorable, man.
Talk about needing a lot of energy. Man, for the first 20 months, they were up about 8 times a night.
That's how they roll.
That's how they roll.
Well, I'm drinking out of this lovely tea bowl. I love a nice tea bowl sometimes. It's kind of a two-handed affair because it's a little bigger. I mean, you can kind of do it with one hand, but it's a little bigger. But it's fairly traditional blue and white style transferware. So so it's kind of got this little bit of a fuzzy look to it, the artwork. It's not just the zoom, it's actually got a little bit of a fuzzy look to the artwork. Because when they transfer it, the ink can sometimes run a little bit, which is kind of part of its charm. And blue and white, I'll tell you, in tea wares, blue and white is just one of the core themes that's been going for a very long time. And just beautiful. It's a great combination, especially for those of us who have lots of dark wood on our tea tables. It produces some really beautiful contrast. So yeah, figured I'd dust out the blue and white bowl today. And actually, here's an even better example of the transferware thing that happens. Look at that. Look at that. See how that artwork kind of bleeding? And just getting kind of fuzzy, but pretty adorable little cup, isn't it?
Yeah, what a great cup.
This was a gift from David, and it's been repaired. It has a crack that goes all the way through it. And but the shape and everything about it, I just love this cup. So there you go.
Some of the best teaware and teacups are the ones with cracks in it.
That's right.
They used to have a well-known job was to repair the teacups and the teapots with soldered gold, and so those were really valuable, right?
Yeah. Yep. Somebody does that here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have a couple of lids that I'm wondering if one day they'll be able to fix for me. But
yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
That'd be cool.
So we got some folks drinking some pretty interesting teas. Ginger maple. Wow, that sounds really good. Chai spice tea. And I'm drinking unblended brick. So that is just kind of the straight up, like down the middle tribute tea to the, made by the folks who invented the Shaopu'er process in the 70s, made by one of the engineers on the team that figured out how to ripen pu'er tea so it would be drinkable a lot quicker, within a couple of years instead of a couple decades. And I sure do love this tea. It's still an absolute favorite. I keep coming back to it, and it always helps me understand all the other teas and all the other flavor profiles and all the other energetics, because it's just kind of straight down the middle. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Somebody's drinking super berry pu'er tea.
I know. I was just seeing that. That looks really interesting.
Sounds pretty.
Right before that, Danielle, she's drinking tea right out of the garden, which that's always fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Wow, she's got quite an herb garden.
I know.
And green tea. So I don't, maybe, Danielle, did you grow the green tea yourself?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. So Mr. Holden.
Yeah.
What do you want to do to get started today? I'm going to pour myself another cup.
Well, I'm drinking this. This is the pu'er I'm drinking is lotus brick.
Ooh, nice.
And I just thought, hey, lotus brick, the lotus flower often is the flower that grows out of the murky water.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's a really good metaphor for a lot of things going on right now at this very heightened energetic time in our history, when so much is going on, both, with a pandemic and with a lot of stuff happening in politics and issues of racism and all coming to the surface. And I thought, lotus brick is the flower that grows out of the murky water. So out of these challenging times, what are the lotus flowers? What's the beauty? What's the opportunity that can grow from all the challenges that we're facing right now? So that was kind of my intention with that brick as I cracked it open this morning.
Was it a fresh one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah.
I love lotus brick because it's so stemmy. It's got, and I really like that.
Yeah.
The tea stems.
Nice dark flavor, but it's it does, some of the tea bricks and the pu'er, the way they're named, really indicates where the energy is going to go. So this one does feel like it comes to the heart and starts to move into the chest and open things up. So it's one of those kind of days.
Well, I think that's great. And I love that intention. Boy, the times are certainly a changing, as they say. And
Yeah.
feel very
Lori had a nice comment here. The mantra, no mud, no lotus. That is true. So when things are difficult, you know, try to remember that. You know, we all go through challenging times personally, and then as a culture and society, and you know, there's been lots of challenging times and throughout history, and this seems to be one of our challenging times. And how do we want to show up? How do we want to move through it? What's the opportunity? What are the inquiries? And what's the new energy that moves, you know, from the mud into the flower? Yeah. And that's a nice theme for this morning.
Perfect.
Yeah. So should we do a little gratitude meditation? Let's just bring our tea and bring it to our heart centers. Bring the tea to your heart center. You can take a nice big sniff of the aroma, because, you know, you drink tea with not only your taste buds, but also with your perception, with our olfactory perception. So take a deep breath. And then what the recommendation is just to clear any stress, tension, tightness, worries, anxieties as you exhale. So you breathe in through the nose and you let the tea go through your system, and then you turn over your left shoulder and you blow out through the mouth. Unless there's somebody sitting right there, you don't want to blow right in their faces, but you don't have to do left shoulder. That's just the recommendation, but just deep breath. And then and that is symbolic of the letting go of the old and to make room for the new. So do that a few times. That creates space and spaciousness. And then what I want you to do is to take a sip of the tea, but don't swallow it. Just hold it in your mouth. Hold the tea in your mouth and imagine golden light coming right into your forehead and then shining down into the tea, into the liquid, turning it into an elixir, mixing qi and tea together. And then when you swallow, it's like you're swallowing liquid sunshine all the way down into your belly. So we've cleansed old energy, and now we're bringing in the brightness of new energy, where qi and the physical form of the water and the tea mix together to create a harmonious blend of our highest intentions into physical manifestation. So with that intention, cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for joining, and let's take a few questions.
Sounds great. All right, folks, we are going to roll into Q&A. So please do throw some questions in the Q&A box if you have them, and you're on Zoom, or in the comments if you're on Facebook. And we'll get started with the Q&A. Let's see here.
Okay, I see a couple questions coming in.
Sure enough.
Glenn, on a YouTube video, it was stated pu'er is an old man's tea. That's funny. Can you explain? Well, I don't know about that, because it's really an everybody's tea, and especially in this day and age, you know, it can be an old man's tea, an old woman's tea, young man, young woman. I even give my children watered down version of pu'er, and we have little tea parties all the time. But I think it's just because notoriously you would see old men in China drinking tea and drinking pu'er.
I think it's specifically the Gong Fu cha, the process of drinking it this way, as opposed to the busy person on the go style of just taking a strainer and putting your tea in it, which you can do with any kind of tea. But the Gong Fu cha, Gong Fu is, of course, skill at working with something. So Kung Fu is the martial arts version of that. But really the word Gong, the skill, attention, energy, focus, stuff we do with Qigong is doing that with our own internal energy. And Gong Fu is doing that as it relates to tea, is doing that with tea. So you're sitting there, you got these old funky teapots, you got all these tea wares, you might have some figures on your thing. And it's otherwise known as Lao Ren Cha, which means old man tea. And and it is, because, you know, once you're an old man, you can sit around and do Kung Fu Cha all day long. Or if you work from home and spend a lot of time on the computer, you can take little breaks and do it throughout the day. So that's what I do. And maybe I'm an old man. But yeah, that's a fairly well-known term, Lao Ren Cha, or old man tea.
Uh-huh. Nice. Great. All right. Let's see. Liliana, at the beginning of Friday's wonderful class, you answered a question and demonstrated breast and chest massage. I had poor internet connection and missed your demonstration. Would you be so kind to show it again? Oh, you just want to make me do breast massage again in front of all our friends here with tea. Right. It's a wonderful, wonderful practice because it is preventative for breast cancer. It helps to, what they say in Qigong, transform Jing into Qi. Jing is essence. The essence of where we came from was reproductive energy. And this was a great source of energy. And so in Qigong practice, we would open the energy of the chest. And for women, there was a breast massage to open the energy through the breast tissue to help to transform energy into vitality. So let's just start. This is a great practice. If you just take your fingers like this, the back of the hands together, and you just massage right along the sternum. All these points here are very good for stress relief. They're related to the heart and the pericardium. Your pericardium is the organ that is called the heart protector. It's physiologically, it's the sac that's around the heart so that your heart doesn't overheat with all that's beating. Energetically, it is the protective energy. So think of it as like your emotional immune system. And so these points help you to not take on the stress of the world and yet stay empathetic or connected to the emotions going on, but they don't have to be your emotions. Just because somebody else is going through a very challenging time doesn't mean that we have to get derailed in our own energy, but we also want to stay kind and compassionate, helpful, and empathetic. So it's a fine balance between that, and these points can really help with that. And then we could just tap on these points. And the little tapping here helps to activate your Qi in the chest. And then if you put your hands by your heart center, and you can just feel a little energy there. And then from here, we can just hold positive, compassionate intentions that go from our heart to the group that we're drinking tea with, from our group's energy out into the world. If you just take a deep breath, you can feel that interconnectedness, that energy that connects all of us together. Wonderful.
Very nice.
If you want more on breast massage and Qigong ideas on sexuality, we do have the Taoist Sexual Secrets on our website that I go into the full practice of what that all is, how sexual energy is related to longevity and health and vitality and spirituality, sort of the Taoist perspective of all of that type of energy. And otherwise, that is a wonderful, wonderful practice.
Liliana, also, that class is now up in the current classes section of the subscription. It'll be up for another week and a half. So you can absolutely jump in and, well, actually, no, that was during the Q&A. Sorry, Liliana, I'm teasing you. Never mind. The
class will be there, but the Q&A won't be.
Right. I don't think you then re-massaged your breasts during the class, but my apologies.
All right. Let's see. What is the difference between pressing on a point or tapping or slapping? That's a good follow-up question since we just did it. So there's different ways to do acupressure and stimulate these pressure points. Now, pressure points fall along meridian lines. Meridian lines are the rivers of energy, the energy pathways that move through the body. So if you had a river flowing, the pressure points would be where the energy gathers in intensity, like an eddy in a river where it whirlpools. If it's electricity, it's kind of where there might be a step-up converter, where you can influence the energy through the whole system at a particular area. So how do we stimulate points? You can do pressure like we're doing here. You can just hold direct pressure. You can tap. And those different techniques do something a little different to the energy. All of them stimulate the Qi. All of them activate, in a sense, get the Qi to circulate and flow. So tapping on it wakes up the energy from deeper within the body. Pressing on it helps to maybe create a smooth, harmonious flow of Qi. And then you can, of course, in the ancient traditions, you would do acupuncture. You would put a needle there. And nobody knows quite how acupuncture started because it's so old. But I think it was just pressure points that were like, hey, okay, if this point helps with my headache and I squeeze it, but then when I go let it go and all of a sudden the headache comes back and I squeeze it and the point goes and the headache goes away, what if I stuck something in there and then it all of a sudden went away? So there was people in the ancient times that were very sensitive to energy. I mean, there's people that are in modern times that are very sensitive to energy. We just have a lot more distractions than people in the ancient times. And they could map out, they could feel through their bodies where these meridian lines were and where these heightened energy points were. And so where those heightened energy points were the acupressure points. And there seems to be more electrical conductivity at certain points on the body that follow and correspond to the acupressure points. That is how these ways in which we stimulate points kind of came about.
Well, it's such a fascinating time to be involved in this type of work because we're able to measure things like the electrical conductivity at these points now. We're able to start to discover the truth of all these ancient wisdom traditions and what they discovered through their subjective experience and the fact that they could feel it and it was undeniable. And now it's like slowly but surely we have the ability to measure more and more and, get 50,000 people together and see what happens when they all try a certain practice, have outcomes-based research for health, et cetera. And so much of it just continually shows up and validates what the ancients already knew, I guess. So yeah, fascinating time to be alive to watch that unfold.
Yeah, totally.
The Western science mind start to embrace some of these things.
Awesome. Wonderful. So then we have, Lori's asking about cleansing and clearing headaches. I have had a headache come on after practice a few times. Just a coincidence, or can it be connected? Should headache practice be done to prevent preventative when you actually do have a headache? Okay, so I just showed a pressure point, and this point right here on the webbing of your thumb and your first finger, if you squeeze in there, it is a really fantastic point to clear headaches. So you can be working on that. You could do it preventatively, and you can also do it once a headache does arise. Because having a headache is no fun. Sometimes with Qigong practice, your body will go through a detoxification, a clearing and a cleansing. And so with detox, it's always more fun to put toxins in or retox, but detox is a little less fun because your body's clearing and cleaning out. And some people can get a little nauseous or feel a little tired. And you're like, wait, I'm doing Qigong. I thought this was going to make me feel good. Well, your body is getting activated in its healing power. And sometimes one of the first responses is to cleanse and clear the old energy or pathogenic Qi out of the system so we can feel a little hungover. We can feel a little nauseous. We can get a light headache. Hydrate, drink tea, drink especially pu'er tea, do your points. And yes, if you are getting a headache or you do struggle with headaches, you could do the headache routine that we have. And that is in our programs, Qigong for headaches. And I show pressure points. There's a nice movement, removing the stone where you're doing this clearing of the energy of the head. And yeah, I really love that routine. Anything that's going to pull the energy down. So after a practice, you might spend a little extra time pulling energy down.
Yeah, there are a lot of, to the point of like, should you do it preventatively? Yes. And should you do it when you have a headache? Also, yes. There are a lot of folks who've written in to say that they get migraines, and if they have one, sometimes if they do that routine, it goes away. So that's absolutely something you can do as a, okay, I'm already in trouble and let's see if this helps.
Right. And Linda Huckabee asked about acid reflux as a side effect of medication. So acid reflux in Chinese medicine is called rebellious stomach qi. It's like a teenager that doesn't want to do what it's told. You know, you're like, stomach qi is supposed to go downward. And so if we have acid reflux or a lot of belching or even nausea, it's rebellious stomach qi. And sometimes it is the way the body wants to get rid of toxicity or clear out old energy. And so that can be something that happens. So we want to move the qi back down. So centering is a great practice where you're bringing the hands around and centering down the midline of the body. And I like that for acid reflux. Healing sounds, especially this triple warmer sound as you're pulling down the heavens, is a fantastic practice as well. Where there's more material on these kinds of things, we did a Qigong for healthy digestion, a whole workshop on that. And that really helps to showcase where to fortify the qi and how to transform the energy of food into life force energy. So, okay. Jess, thank you for all the support during these challenging times. My mother and I have been loving the 30-day challenge. We were wondering if we will have access to these wonderful 7-minute videos once the challenge is complete. And yes, you will. They are yours to keep forever. So you can pick your favorite ones. You can go through it again, or if you get some longer programs, or if you're on the subscription, any day that you can't do the longer program because you don't have enough time, just do one of the 7-minute routines. Or what I really like is to use those 7-minute routines sometime during the day as a qi break. Maybe do a little longer practice in the morning, and then you take a qi break early in the afternoon and do one of those 7 minutes, and it just seems to reset the whole system.
Yeah, for me, those are a go-to for sure. And they're so beautiful. Even just watching the waves behind lead for 7 minutes would be pretty peaceful, but actually doing the 7-minute routine is just so quick and easy, and it doesn't take, I mean, you just have to stand up, move your chair out of the way so you can see your screen. It takes nothing, you know, no effort practically. And then you feel amazing after just 7 minutes. So yeah, keep doing them, keep them flowing forever, and keep them in your arsenal for when you're short on time.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. I'm being bitten a lot from bugs in my garden. I've never been before, and the bites follow meridian lines. From a TCM perspective, is there anything that Qigong may help me with? See, these questions.
I was fascinated by that one. I was wondering where.
Think about it, but I find it fascinating when, you know, mosquito bites or bug bites are on acupressure points. I think it is that conductivity of electricity, and, you know, the bugs are like, good qi here. So there is some therapies like bee therapy where they actually sting, they hold the bee and have you that sting on specific points. And I find that they're even using that in modern medicine. Wow. For pain and certain afflictions, even hospitals. And so these were ancient therapies. So just think of it as nature's acupuncture, that nature is helping you to wake up your energy system. And I think just get curious, maybe, you know, ask your body and ask nature what the message is, what they're trying to say to you, and start a little communion with nature. If you want to prevent bug bites from happening, you can take B vitamins and garlic, eat more garlic, and all the other fun things that you can do when you're out in nature. Alejandro, the doctors, let's see, the doctor said hyperhidrosis, especially now that we are close to winter. My hands, armpits break out in sweat, even when I'm relaxing. So I was wondering the reason, if you had some recommendations. So another good question. So sweating in Chinese medicine can be seen as a particular kind of qi deficiency where the pores of the skin don't hold. They're not holding the qi in. So we want to do a practice where they can hold energy in and keep it intact. So I would say do some tonifying exercises. Do exercises that will help contain the Qi. So 5-element energy flow on our website is probably the best for boosting the energy in a very calm and relaxed way. And some people, that's just the way their energy systems work is, you know, they have sweating hands or excess of sweat. It's not a bad thing. And it's a way in which the body is cleansing and trying to keep an equilibrium. So by adding some Qigong practice, you can really help what your body's trying to do naturally. All right. Karen, I'm gathering you teach, gathering and teaching multiple times a day. Is there such a thing as Qi overload by doing too much Qigong practice? Well, I think like anything else, especially exercise oriented, you want to have a balanced practice and check in with yourself. See if you're doing too much. And if you are doing too much, you'll get the side effects of maybe a little bit of fatigue or being too tired or things like that. But man, I think a couple hours of Qigong a day is great if you have the time. I think it's a wonderful way to invest in your health, your energy, and in the meaning of life, in the deep communion that we can have with nature and the universe. So what's more important than that? So just keep listening to yourself. I'd say if you get up to, you know, 4 hours a day of Qigong, that's when you probably have to balance it out with some extra sleep, nutrition, and things like that. And I do know some practitioners who just get so connected to the practice that they, you know, do a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the evening, and they just love it. Mm-hmm. So whether it's 7 minutes or 4 hours, you just listen to yourself and your life and see what the right rhythm is for you. Susan, I have read that for beginners to feel Qi readily at first is the buzzing, tingling in the hands, and that feeling of Qi in the lower part of the body comes with time. I have burning feet sensations when I do powerful Qigong. What is the significance of this, and how and when do I feel Qi eventually in the Dantian? Well, this is true, I think, and everybody's different. So the Dantian, which is the belly center, is often a place where we don't feel it as readily. It's a different sensation. So the Dantian experience often takes with more sensitivity, with more energy there. And as that energy arises in the Dantian and our sensitivity increases, we start to feel what's actually there. It's a little more subtle energy. Like, for example, you can feel the chair on your back pretty easily, but if I put your attention on the air on your face, that's a little bit more subtle. And in the same way, inside your body, there's the more obvious energies, and there's the more subtle energies that just take practice to learn how to feel those. And it doesn't mean that you don't have energy there. It just means that you're not aware of it. Just in the same way you weren't aware of the air on your face, but it was always there. That's like the energy in the Dantian. Let's see. Somebody's asking about carpal tunnel and wanting some advice. So carpal tunnel often is the irritation of the nerve, the carpal nerves in the forearms. And it can come from neck and shoulder tension, poor posture in the spine, overuse of the hands, like on the computer, things like, professions like cutting hair or being a dentist, things where you're really doing minute things with the hands. It also can just come from tightness and tension in the neck and shoulders with misalignment of the spine. So stretching your upper back and neck and doing exercises like spreading the feathers, where we're pushing out to one side and turning the head the other way and working the energy through the neck, shoulders, and the arms, can be very helpful. We do have a program called Qigong for arms, wrists, and hands on the website. And that's what I'd recommend if you're facing some of those challenges.
There at the very top of Yosemite, overlooking the side of Half Dome, and Yosemite Falls is this tiny little thing, even though it's a 1,000-foot waterfall. It's such a beautiful spot. Somebody just commented in the chat room too. It's like, I love the Yosemite videos, but when I was there, I got eaten alive. And
Yeah.
God, so did the film
Bud
crew. Yeah.
I was just a side note of our Yosemite experience. We were driving back from the top of that mountain when we filmed that program, and the sun was setting just beautifully over these gorgeous mountains. And we stopped to take some photos and to look at the setting sun, and the sky was just bursting into a cascade of colors. And off in the distance, we could see a bear, and it was way off in the distance. And one of our camera guys, he and I are always joking around. So he went around one side of the tree, and I came around the other side with my best Qigong bear noise. And I went, "Roo!" And he ran so fast back to the car and slammed the door. So my kids were just laughing about that story. Remember the time when you did this to Todd? And that was really funny. I've never seen him run so fast. I think he probably could have won a gold medal in the Olympics.
It was great. That was an awesome moment.
Somebody, speaking of kids and whatnot, just and off-topic questions, could you please tell me the recipe for the almond flour pancakes? So, well, my recipe, I get almond flour pancake mix, and then I add chia seeds, cinnamon, and vanilla, and make it with almond milk. And that is my recipe for almond flour pancakes that my kids absolutely love. And cinnamon is a Chinese herb, and it's also a great herb for health and longevity. So anytime you can use a little cinnamon in whatever, do so. It's a great spice, not only for flavor, but also as a supplement for your energy system.
Somebody's saying they highly recommend the hands and wrist program for frozen shoulders. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, that's great, because we do so much on the neck and the upper back. Frozen shoulder, if you do the wrist pain and the Qigong for healthy joints and alternate those, it really helps with the shoulder issue.
Perfect.
Somebody asked, do I have a Qigong routine I do each day with my daughters? And I do the pancake Qigong pretty much every day. And you know what I do almost every day is I take the kids and I do stories at the end of the day. So before going to bed, I do stories, and and in the story is some kind of Qigong lesson usually. So I try to make it entertaining. Usually it's full of creative animals, and then usually, you know, the lion will say, take a deep breath and relax. And I see all their three little bodies. And then I guide them through a meditation, but it is from the lion's perspective. And that's much easier for them to drop into meditation if I do it in a story, rather than just say, hey, we're going to do a meditation right now. And they're like, no, we want a story. And so I do a meditation and a guided visualization. And then we do little bits of Qigong throughout the day, and you know, they're often down with me at the Qi Center, and they will participate for as long as their young attention spans can handle.
On the topic of kids, Pavel is not really Pavel. Pavel's wife Svetlana is here instead of Pavel.
Oh, okay.
In Pavel's stead, and is asking, how did Qigong help you when you were raising your girls, or did you even have time to do Qigong during this time?
Well, that is a great question. And this brings up a wonderful point, is that I was extra busy when I had the twins, because I had a PBS show and I was making DVDs, and I was running a clinic, a full clinic, a Western medicine and Eastern medicine fusion. It was called the Santa Cruz Integrative Medicine Center and Qi Center. And my kids were 4 months old when I started that. So I had all kinds of energetic output. So I didn't have time not to do Qigong. I had to do a lot of Qigong just to keep my energy up, to maintain healthy balance with all the activities. And the thing is, when we have enough energy to meet life's demands, the stress becomes rewarding and fulfilling. And as soon as we get depleted, even little stresses can be overwhelming. And once we feel overwhelmed, we can get into negative emotional spirals. We can get depressed. We can drop into anxiety. Once you raise your energy, then life's challenges become more fun and like, wow, I'm inspired to do this. I have the energy to do it. And stress become strengthening to your soul and to your energy system. So that was probably the most energetically challenging time in my life, because I wasn't sleeping as much. As I said, the kids would get up, 5 to 8 times a night. And then I was seeing acupuncture patients and doing Qigong classes. And I did a lot more Qigong myself. I was probably doing, an hour to 2 hours a day of practice in between all the other things I had to do. So sometimes it would be 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, but it really helped to keep my energy strong. So remember that when your energy is strong, you're more efficient. You get more done. You have more clarity of mind, and you can prioritize things in a way that really relates to what's important to you.
I love that. And I think that's also a good segue into, I think you sort of answered, do you have a Qigong routine you do every day with your daughters? Sort of. And I think though this one actually is very intriguing to me. So Debbie's asking, when we do practices to release stress or negativity and release sometimes with force down into the earth, what happens if there's someone living below us? We trust the energy will bypass their space and presence on the way to the earth.
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
And my mom was just sitting here. She's having tea with us, and she was talking about that particular time and wondering how it was that I was doing all that I was doing. So she confirmed what I was saying, how busy and crazy that time was, and how much energy and output there was there. So that was fun. I did need some help from parents for sure.
Yeah.
My mom was a big help when the kids were that little. So Debbie, your question is interesting. Some great, interesting questions. So when you're pulling energy and you're saying, I'm going to send my negative energy down to the earth. And, I teach Qigong classes on the 3rd floor, and below me is Planned Parenthood. So we don't want to be sending all that negative energy to, people below us. So you're exactly right. Now, energy is interesting. When we have negative energy, especially if there's no malicious intent towards the person. So it's really different when you're angry with somebody and you're thinking negative thoughts, or you're upset with somebody. That person often will feel that negative energy, and it's because it's not discharged to the earth or transformed and neutralized, in a sense. That emotional energy is staying with us. And when we send it down to the earth with positive intent, it doesn't stick to somebody else just because you're sort of in the way of that. It naturally gravitates to its most natural place. Now, the earth energy, it's very natural for the earth to take your negative. That's why we can take compost. That's our old garbage that we don't use anymore. That's energy that's no longer harmonious to us. But if we put that on the earth will take that as positive and give us back a garden. So there's this synergy. We see synergy in nature all the time, whether it's with our breathing. You exhale carbon dioxide. The trees take that in as positive energy, and they give us back oxygen. So nature works in this perfect synergy if we allow it to move through us. That's why we don't want to hold on to our emotions, because everything in nature is in a process of change and transformation. So when you're sending energy down to the earth, it'll most naturally gravitate to the earth energy field. It's not even like compost. It's just the way in which we can conceptualize it. It's just moving out of your body into the earth's energy field and neutralized, transformed, and it won't, let's say, hit somebody else. Sometimes we do an exercise where we're clearing energy to the left and to the right, and there's students next to us, and people are like, oh no, am I throwing my negative chi to somebody else? And my comment is like a garage sale, your garbage sometimes is another person's treasure. So there you have it.
Well, here's an interesting follow-up on a similar topic. Is Jane's asking, the anxiety that she's experienced off and on for a good portion of her life begins to intensify during practice. And to her, it almost feels like it's saying, look, I'm here for your protection. So give me a good enough reason to let go.
That is a really good comment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like our protective mechanisms is the strongest in our bodies. So sometimes ways in which we protected ourselves emotionally, physically at any particular time in life back then is no longer applicable, but those patterns still remain. And when we can develop relevant patterns to meet the circumstances of our life in the moment, that's when we stay present and fresh and in the flow with the way things are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I think there's a lot of questions about these topics, these emotional topics and so forth. And, my experience is that the healing sounds are extremely powerful. So if you, in the midst of Qigong practice and we're not doing a lot of healing sounds, and then you need to discharge whatever comes up, then the healing sounds often, maybe after practice, even if you're still feeling kind of agitated in some way, could really help as well. And if you don't have the healing sound, if you haven't done those, or if you haven't done them during the subscription classes in a while, we do have a course that's available, and it's got all of them, as well as like seated meditation version and the standing routines. Really can discharge a lot of emotional energy. So those I find to be the most helpful way to do that. Somebody's asking about high blood pressure. Meta, do you have exercises and meridian pressure points that help with this? She doesn't want to take the medication.
High blood pressure? Yeah. So, that's another one of our programs, Qigong for high blood pressure. So try that. There's been some great studies that came out in China, and it's fun to take your blood pressure, do the routine, and then take your blood pressure again. And very often blood pressure drops immediately following that routine. So clearing stress, staying relaxed, keeping your nervous system relaxed can be really helpful for keeping that blood pressure balanced. And in Qigong and Chinese medicine, high blood pressure is the Qi is rising. So it's called Yang rising, and it just keeps the pressure upwards. And what we want to do is cultivate more yin energy. That's slow flowing movements, and that's downward movement. So we want energy to come back down to our center so that the head is clear, the blood pressure is regulated. And it does take some time to make a systemic change, but over the course of regular practice of Qigong, you can really help to balance your blood pressure.
Great. Yep, that's a great one. Just a couple logistical or questions that I can field here before we have Zach Proxy and some questions from the Facebook crew. Denise is asking, does the monthly subscription allow students to watch the classes live? And the answer is yes. We are doing the live classes for now during shelter in place. We may continue afterward. So absolutely, if you do join the subscription, you can watch them live, and then 2 to 3 days later, that same class will land on the list of previous classes that lives in the subscription for about 2 weeks before it cycles its way out, and we post new classes 3 times a week. So both live and replays, so you can do Qi every single day. The other one that I'm going to go ahead and handle is, do you wash out your teapots and strainers?
I just typed in an answer for them. Yeah, that's.
Oh, you did? Well, for anybody else, these pots I wash only with water. They're unglazed. Generally speaking, with teawares, I just use really hot water. And if you are using different kinds of tea in a strainer, you just have one strainer, by all means use soap. If it's made of metal or whatever, no big deal at all. And that can kind of wash off the flavor of the green tea when you want to have a black tea or something like that. Totally fine. But for the glazed, or for the unglazed teawares, or for the nicer ceramics, you don't really want to soak them. And then the other one that was a little bit on the logistical side was, or on the tea side, and actually I'll give this one to you. Are you familiar with mate teas? If so, what are your thoughts? I know you've been experimenting a little bit lately.
Yeah, mate is wonderful. It's a South American plant, so it comes usually is drunk in Argentina and southern Brazil. And I had the privilege to teach Qigong in the south of Brazil, and got turned on to mate, and they drink it out of the gourds. But it doesn't have caffeine. It has something called matine in it, but it gives you quite a buzz. And people are just sipping on that all day long. and sharing, you know, the mate gourd around with the community. So it's a wonderful practice. There's some great health benefits to mate, similar to the health benefits of tea. Mate is quite popular now with, you know, all the mate, yerba mate drinks and things like that.
Great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's go ahead and take some from our old friends over there on Facebook, and Zach will help us with that.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a ton of questions coming in from Facebook. The first one's from Christina. Is there an ideal time to go to bed and wake up in Chinese medicine? Also, does Lee have any favorite morning and evening rituals?
Morning and evening rituals. I mean, my morning and evening rituals, I do love to do a Qigong practice, some version of Qigong practice. I mix it up. I like to do both in the morning and in the evening, some breath work. I find that is really clarifying with slow flowing movements. Whatever helps you to get to slow and into the flow. I mean, the goal is flow state, and to sustain flow state for a long enough period of time that really shifts your energy. So warming up and activating Qi and stretching the body to get to that flow state is so wonderful. So I'm always seeking to get to flow state. I can get there very quickly now with just a little bit of maybe warm up or activation and then dropping into flows. So I always seek that slow flowing movement in my personal practice. And I have been doing more breath work with standing postures, just holding a standing pose and circulating energy. So the body is still, but the energy is moving. And that is sometimes a little bit more advanced Qigong practice. I did just teach a iron shirt curriculum, and I do a lot of that practice that I taught in that workshop on my own because it's so energetically powerful.
Nice. And we have another question from Vicky. Using the internet and social media can create a lot of imbalances. How can we use Qigong in short sound bites to bring us back to the now throughout the day?
I think that's great because we did talk about the 7 minutes, the 30-day challenge. So if you like to, and you want to do Qi breaks and you have that 30-day challenge, just pick one of those 7-minute routines. You know, you're on the computer and you're just like, okay, I'm not going to step back, play one of those 7-minute routines, or you memorize it and then you go outside in nature, even better. But definitely take some Qi breaks, get off the social media, the computer, get your feet in the ground, go, you know, touch a tree, get out in nature. I think getting out in nature is so important. We've been talking a lot about kids in this Q&A, and I read a kind of a shocking statistic that on average these days, kids are only getting out about 20 minutes a day in nature. And in the 80s, it was average 4 hours. So I think that is really showcasing where we're moving in society. And also what I love is all these new studies about how being out in nature and getting dirty, getting your hands in the dirt and bare feet on the ground is so healthy. And they're demonstrating all these things scientifically, from, you know, discharging the oxidation by being barefoot on the earth to the important microbes that help our microbiome by getting dirty and being outside. And all kinds of things. So spend a little more time out in nature, pick 2 or 3 of your favorite Qigong exercises and do those out in nature. That would be my highest recommendation.
Right on. And we have another question from Christina regarding the teacher training. Lee has so many awesome poses. Does the teacher training include a resource that lists them all for reference to aid in building class routines?
You know, in the teacher training, what we did is we broke down each of the segments, the lecture and the exercises, so that you can really clearly find the exercises. And often while I'm lecturing, afterwards, before a Q&A, we'll do a review of the exercises because the attendees there wanted to write down the exercises. So as you're going through the teacher training, we'll stop, we'll write down, we'll make a list of the exercises. And the beautiful thing about the teacher training is it is self-paced, it's online. You can go back and forth. You could scrub through the exercises and really easily take notes on that. There is a workbook included in the training. There's all kinds of supplemental videos that are included, and quizzes that go through each of the the weeks to really test to see if you're retaining the knowledge.
Nice. Yeah, that's always great. And John has a question about breathing. When Lee says deep breathing in his videos, does he mean deep belly breathing or wave breathing?
I mean both. I mean that it depends on where you are, but in general, when you're breathing deep, the breath, even as you go through the day, if you just stop and say, "Oh, I wonder how I'm breathing," because breath normally is below the level of our awareness. It's a subconscious process. It's happening without you thinking. So if you can just stop a few times during the day and do some wave breathing, mainly slow, full, deep breath, breathing in and out through your nose, you become more oxygen efficient. It calms your nervous system. And that's kind of the way you want to breathe all the time. When we come to class, we put the hands on the belly. We're going to reset. We're going to move some energy downward, because often during the day, the energy moves upward and is spinning in our head. So by doing some belly breathing, we bring the Qi down into the lower abdomen and recenter. So wave breathing is going to be more in alignment with how you want to breathe kind of all day long, or even in meditation. Maybe belly breathing for a specific amount of time so that you get the Qi in your belly and out of your head. So if you're feeling a lot of thoughts come up, a lot of mental stress, you could do some belly breathing just to balance that out.
Nice. And Eva has a question about cleansing glands. Anything that you can recommend to cleanse glands, the neck, throat, and behind the ears?
Sorry, what was the first part?
Anything that you can recommend to cleanse glands in the neck, throat, and behind ears?
Healing sounds. Healing sounds, because when you're making sounds, it's vibrating this whole area. Not only that, but also your internal organs. And you can do sounds in the course. What I do is I take people through the different layers of sound. So if you really want to focus on a physical body, you do the sound vocalized. And if you want to focus on more of emotional energy, you do it as a whisper. So healing sounds can be wonderful for the glands, especially in this particular area.
Right on. And Hayun has a question about breathing as well. I noticed that I'm a chronic shallow breather. Do you have any tips for reminding myself throughout the day to breathe more deeply?
Yeah, set an alarm like 4 times a day. And just when that alarm goes off, I'm going to do 1 minute of deep breathing. That is a nice way to use modern technology to create a positive effect. You can just, when you think about it, just stop, do 1 minute of deep breathing to start to repattern your breath. Because when you consciously breathe, your subconscious is listening. It's like planting the seeds. And then when you do that, all of a sudden, now your breath is programmed to breathe deeper when you're not thinking about it.
Nice. And Barbie Kelly has a question about Qigong exercises for kids. Do you have any routines that you'd recommend to help kids go to sleep, to stop breastfeeding, and to set boundaries with kids?
Oh, that's a great one. Man, that's a big parenting topic. But what I like to do is negotiate with them and hear what they have to say, and as opposed to kind of laying down the law as a parent. So I do a little bit more dialoguing and listening, and I find that works really well to establish communication. And we often will make little deals. Hey, Dad, I wanna watch a movie. Okay, well, I want you to read and do Qigong for 20 minutes. How about we watch a movie, and then we'll make an agreement to do Qigong afterwards. And there's usually no arguments because we've made some arrangement. Hey, let's go out and take a hike in the woods. Well, Dad, I really want to see my friend and have a Zoom conference with her. Okay, why don't you have the Zoom call, and then we'll go out into the woods and we kind of dialogue. And I find that this kind of communication helps me with my kids. All kids are different, so we have to figure out how they communicate, what works for them. And that is very high level Qigong practice. Parenting is a very challenging Qi practice, because you're working with little people that are impulsive, and they haven't learned to work with their impulses in a way that we adults have. And they're really in the moment much more than we are. And so they have a lot to teach us as well as a lot to learn from us. So if you think of your kids as your teachers, your collaborators, and as the people that you're being a tour guide in life for, it can be helpful. So I think there's a whole topic of Qi parenting and Qi kids that that would probably do best to answer these kinds of questions.
Right on, yeah. And Don has a question about the Microcosmic Orbit workshop that we just had. What are the benefits of the orbit meditation?
Benefits of the orbit meditation. There's so many, and it is profound. This practice, and this is a workshop we just taught this week, and it'll be available online in our workshop series if anybody wants to take it. So the benefits of the microcosmic orbit, we can look at it in terms of our bodies. So increases energy. I was explaining that it was one of the great tonics of Qigong. It powers up the system. You're going to run energy and current up the back into the brain to develop these higher levels of energy, and then move it down the front for balance and emotional balance and clearing stress. And as you circulate the energy, charge up the body, clear stress, charge up the body and clear stress. It creates a very powerful healing elixir within us. So it's not only good for powering up energy and clearing stress. Orbits, movement of circular movement, is what's happening in nature and the universe all around us. So practitioners used to do the microcosmic orbit as a way to commune and to feel what's happening in the universe, to discover the truth about themselves and their place in life. So it answers some of these higher purpose questions. We also got into, let's say, the spirituality and the concept of spiritual Qigong practice. What does that mean? And how the microcosmic orbit helps us to be really comfortable in our energy bodies, so that when our physical body perishes, we're transforming our Qi into what they call Shen, your consciousness, your conscious energy body. And what does that look like? And how is that practiced as well? So there's a lot to it. And it is one of my favorite practices, and I do recommend it.
Nice. And Kathy has a question about carpal tunnel. I had a successful operation last July, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions to further my carpal tunnel and repair it in a way.
Yeah, we talked about that before, so hopefully she heard the answer about arms, wrists, and hands, clearing the energy from the neck and shoulders, and just keeping the Qi flowing. You know, one of my soccer coaches, he had carpal tunnel. This was a soccer coach I had when I was 10 years old, and then later when I graduated college and I was doing all this Qigong, I ran into him, and he said with a very thick British accent, he said, you know, I got this carpal tunnel, and, you know, what can I do about it? So I showed him 3 or 4 exercises, and a week later he called me on the phone. He goes, you know those stupid exercises you showed me? And I said, oh God, I messed up coach's arms. And he goes, well, they worked. So those are the carpal tunnel exercises really can help clear stagnant Qi in the wrists and the hands. And, you know, try out the arms, wrists, hands program.
Nice. And Leslie has a question about the video class subscriptions. In one of your classes, you talked about both the flowing movements and standing postures as ways of tonifying the Qi. Can you talk more about that, and how is that even through both of these movements and approaches?
Okay. So when you are, when you're doing Qigong practices, you're either clearing old energy, which we often do in the beginning of class, and then we're usually bringing in energy, often what we do towards the end of class. So those flowing movements, think of them as the way in which you slow down, you open up to be receptive, to bring in the energy that you want. Now, this is something that we do all the time. We are picking up energy from people, from circumstances, from even listening to the news. You are acquiring Qi. You're picking it up and internalizing it and digesting it. So unfortunately, most of the time throughout our day, we are acquiring stressful energy, or energy that might be a little bit discordant with our health and vitality. So you are giving yourself, when you slow down and do flowing movements, opportunity to absorb and soak up positive energy, because our intention is on inner peace and joy and an emotional elevation and positive energy, and you're soaking that up. So that is tonifying, meaning strengthening that particular vibration in our energy system. Standing postures do the same thing because you're holding a posture. You're like a tree connecting to the energy around you. You're holding a posture that's in alignment with heaven and earth, and the energy then downloads and rushes through your body and circulates.
Nice. And that'll do it for the Facebook questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach, for bringing those over to us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
A lot of folks on Facebook over there, and I hope you guys are having fun. We are over here in Zoom. It's nice to be able to do this in multiple places, so everybody gets to join the way they want. Okay, let's take some live questions. We'll do a few. Probably don't have time for very many at this point, but maybe 15 minutes worth, and then we'll do a little closing and call it a wrap. And I see a few folks have your hands up. I'm going to lower them now, but I know your names, so if you pop them back up, we'll make sure to call on you because people wander off. So if you put your hands up at the beginning, who knows? All right, great. They're starting to flow in. So we're going to start with Brad. And Brad will be in just a moment. Here he is. All right.
Okay.
There he is.
How's it going?
Good.
Brad, thanks.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, Lee, we've talked a couple times. I'm a strength conditioning coach, and I've done Qigong for 15 years or so, but 3 or so years with you guys, so really do it. And I consult and work with college and professional athletes and with professional athletes at this level with this, and if so, just sort of what is your advice to me or input?
Guys, I think there's such an opportunity for working with athletes because, athletes are really seekers of flow state and getting into the zone. And so if they have a direct access of ways in which they can get into the zone early, athletes all know that when they're in the zone, they play better. There's that shot or that pass just goes in the right place at the right time. And it's like a second sense kicks in. And that's what I love about athletics. And if they can train that, they can get into the zone faster, quicker, more effortlessly, and then they're playing their sport in an improved way, plus in a more enjoyable way, because when you're in the zone, it is fun. It is very elevating. So I think training flow state is a great way to dialogue with athletes because athletes know that feeling of being in the zone, and I think that is a great way to connect and have a conversation with them. And then usually athletes know about stress and anxiety and the pressure of the sport, and to be able to transform that and get that into flow state as well. I think it's hard to really get athletes to move slowly because they're so used to the yang expression of their body, but to replenish and have a rest day and do Qigong and stretch it out and things like that can be highly beneficial for not only their sport, but also their physiology and their bodies. And the nice thing is that athletes are now know that rest days are so important, but it's like an active rest day, not just to sit on the couch rest day. And that's when the Qigong can be so good for athletes. So those are some thoughts.
Okay, that's great. I'm in your teacher training too, so that's good. And I'm gonna do Dao Yin. I'd love to. I'm working on workshops, and I use a lot of developmental movements and Qigong as my two pairings. And I teach neuroscience and applied physiology. So they get sort of they get the science of it. So I don't teach anything that I can't explain in science, but I get it, so I can explain it. But I'd love to. I talked to Ben. I'd love to at some point talk to you further about some collaborative work.
That sounds great. Let's be in touch about that. I'd love to do some more work with the athletes. I think that would be fantastic.
I'm taking this to the pro level, so we'll be in touch. This is
okay.
It's going big. It's going to the pros for sure. It's already happened. Sure. It's already happened.
Good. Awesome, Brad. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon, Brad. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
See you then. Next up is Patricia. Patricia, hold on just one sec. Nope, there you go. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Sure
oh,
can.
excellent. Can you see me?
No, but
Oh,
that's
shoot.
to be something that we can't fix. So go ahead.
Oh, that's too bad because I am here for a specific reason.
Okay.
First of
Hold
all,
on. I'll fix it.
okay.
I hit the wrong button. But here she comes.
Excellent.
All right, let's try that.
Hey. Okay,
It should be
great.
prompting you to show us.
And I'm going to start my video. So here we are. Hi.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody had said about what the benefit of the microcosmic orbit was when I took it, was that I have been having really good, deep sleep ever since I've had it. And it's been wonderful. I mean, I subconsciously get up to go to the washroom in the night, but I'm actually sleepwalking when I do it. So that is the best one. So that was really good. But the biggest thing for me is that I have wonderful news. Vancouver Island, where I live on the west coast of Canada, is now COVID-free, completely. And I am so excited. And like New Zealand, you live on an island, so you can kind of stop people from coming and going. And because of that, I'm just thrilled. So I had an opportunity to actually do a road trip. And it was actually down to Victoria, which is our capital. And it's a great big Chinatown down there. And because of Ben, the very, very first time I was actually on Tea with Lee, he was doing his ritual with his teapot, and I was on a mission. So I'm here to show you.
I've been staring at your teapots the whole time you're
Can
talking.
you see it?
Look at that.
So I even have the little tray thing, and I bought 2 pots. I got this from a secondhand store, and I'm just thrilled. So I want to say that I don't know whether to blame you or thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
That was a little costly.
Yeah, it is.
And I also picked up this puree, pu'er tea, and I was told by the merchant there that you actually, he calls it pur.
Yeah,
not
right. Yeah, the Americanization is pu'er because we're kind of nasal. But
exactly.
But yeah, pu'er.
Yeah. So, and I can't wait to actually go do a road trip down to see you guys and actually be in the same room with you. So when that opens up, man, I'm there. So awesome. Thank you. Just wanted to share the good news. And
well, we can't wait to have tea with you, and hope you enjoy your newfound toys.
Absolutely.
It certainly is a wonderful way to roll. Yeah. I actually bought a really crappy brick of tea and a really nice teapot in Victoria's Chinatown on a trip maybe 10 or 11 years ago.
Yes.
I love Vancouver Island so much. It's one of my favorite places energetically that I've ever been in the world.
Well, you know what? We have Vancouver, we have like Ucluelet, Tofino area, beautiful beaches. If you guys think about wanting to come here, I would see what I can help you out with.
All right.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah. So we're not far away, actually. We're actually not far away. So
excellent.
Yeah. Thank you. That was it. Thank you. Bye.
All right. We have Ellen. Oh, I did it again. Hold on, Ellen. My protocol for the live classes is the exact opposite of my protocol for this one. So there we go. And if you press the magic button, I think we can see you.
Am I on?
You sure are.
Okay. Thank you all for everything you've done. Lee, your teaching has been just extraordinary. Everything you've done has been so perfect. Your team, Ben, everything, the way your people have responded by email to problems, everything. It's just extraordinary.
Thank you.
And along with that was the Microcosmic Orbit workshop. And I was just wondering why in the workshop you mentioned that you don't teach reverse microcosmic orbit for several years.
Okay, so the reason is it's called the water cycle. And when you bring up energy in this yin pathway, there's a way in which it can overheat or exacerbate emotional energy because it's bringing it directly into the heart. And so you can do this practice. It's recommended if you're like on retreat, you're, you know, a monk in the cave, you're, you know, just doing some very calm, quiet work that's not necessarily really connected to society. So then you do the reverse because it opens up your psychic channels and opens up your heart in a particular way. But if you're really engaged in worldly affairs, it can make us too sensitive, too emotionally sensitive. We're already sensitive emotionally, so it heightens that, and it can bring too much energy to the head to create, again, more thinking. If we're mentally stressed out, it can exacerbate some of those pre-existing conditions that we find ourselves in Western culture. So doing it the reverse is kind of calming, bringing the energy of the mind down, calming the energy of the heart, and then energizing the body, the yang qi of the body, by coming up the back. So there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just, you kind of have to know your demeanor and your life circumstance. So if you're very calm, living a very calm life, you're really clear, you've done your emotional work, your mind is in a good space, then by all means, you can do it reverse and get into some really powerful energies that way. But otherwise, it's just safer in relationship to modern life to do it this way.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks again for everything.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Yeah, very sweet. Thanks so much, Ellen. And good luck. Don't hurt yourself with the with the reverse order.
Right.
And let's see, we have Steph. And I'm going to get it right this time. Yep, got it right this time. Okay. Hi, Steph. One sec. I think you have to finish unmuting. There we go.
That work?
Yeah.
Really hoping that you don't need subtitles, but a huge thank you, Lee and Ben, for the work that you've been doing. 2 questions, if I can squeeze it in. One question is there any way or any reason why somebody shouldn't do Qigong?
Oh, that's there's certain Qigong practices maybe that you wouldn't do. Like we just taught the microcosmic orbit, and I was talking about women that are pregnant or on their cycle. Part of that practice you could skip because it's moving energy up and away from the lower abdomen and the fetus. So you want to do a modification of those practices and bring energy down. So I was showing that in the workshop, how to bring energy down and gather it to support, you know, a birth or, you know, a particular time of month. There's also times when maybe we get sick. If you got a kind of a common cold, you want to do certain practices and not others. You want to do clearing kinds of Qigong practices like healing sounds and maybe some gentle stretches and warm-ups, but not necessarily a whole lot of flows, because when you're sick, your body is fighting off. It wants to clear out pathogenic Qi, and flows tend to tonify. So there wouldn't be a time where you don't do Qigong. There would be a time where you don't do certain kinds of Qigong practices that would be more appropriate than other. Injuries are the same way. I think if you're really injured or you are really sick, you know, that's just your body's natural ability to heal itself will just come online and get strengthened that way. So always listening to your inner guidance can be helpful. But that's kind of a short answer to your question.
Okay, thank you. Second one is still feel like a bit of a newbie, and there's a bit of chat going on in the question and answers piece about feeling that people are yawning, but for me it's burping and I don't burp.
Oh my gosh.
So why does that happen? Is that a good sign?
Yeah.
Should I change my diet?
Yawning and burping is a sign that Qi is moving and circulating. It's clearing and cleansing your system. So Mantak Chia, he's quite a burper, and he's one of my Qigong teachers. And so, but he usually has a microphone on when he's teaching class and does some quite epic burping during the workshop. And it's fairly startling for a lot of people. It's quite comical, but just know that you're not alone, that there's some profound and advanced Qigong masters that do the same thing. So don't worry about it, but just know that maybe you want to do Qigong more on an empty stomach. Your body's cleansing, it's moving Qi, and it's just one of the ways your physiology responds to energetic movement, and it's totally fine.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Lee.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to following you.
Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Montauk Chia as well, and he is absolutely doesn't hold back either. I think it's good to let it out. So there you go. That's the theory anyway. All right, last one for today is Felicia. Felicia will be popping back in here momentarily. There we go. Hi, Felicia. And away we go.
Everybody's loving receiving the news that I'm pregnant. They're like, oh my God.
Oh, that's great, honey.
Good news.
Hey,
Yeah,
Felicia.
that's wonderful.
Are you there?
Oh yeah, in a pair of scissors.
We can hear Felicia's conversation.
All right, well, somebody's pregnant. Good for them. That is wonderful news. Bye, Felicia. All right, well, that means Beryl gets to slip in under the wire. So here we go with Beryl, and should only take him a second here. Here we are. Cool. That's interesting. Beryl came in as a black screen with no name and no ability to press any buttons. So maybe we're done.
Okay. Well, that was a great session, huh?
It sure was.
I'm trying to type in some answers quickly into the chat room where people have questions. Maybe
so good about that.
Recommend that people go on the website and just poke around in the healing series. There's quite a few condition specific things, and then we did like Qigong for low back pain as a workshop, which we don't have necessarily as a program. So there's some great workshops, past workshops that would dive deeper into topics like ankles and feet and arms and back pain. And we have stuff on the website that you can watch, participate in, and work with. You know, when we're in pain and we have issues in our bodies, it's important to get healthy energy movement into those areas without irritating the tissues. So move your body, but do so in a way that feels good, that does not irritating. You're not pushing it too hard, but you're getting that healthy movement into those areas. So if you're in acute pain, still move, but don't do it in an extreme way.
That's great. And Zach did just put a link to the healing series. Yeah, we specifically created those for the reason of making sure that we're building up this toolkit, this arsenal of things that you can bring to those issues, whatever those issues may be. And personally, the way that I've used them in the past is if I've got an issue or whatever, something's starting to kind of flare up, or I had an injury, which I've had body surfing here in Santa Cruz a few times. It's great to be able to go to those and mix them in amongst the subscription classes. So I'll do the specific healing practice from the healing series 2 or 3 times a week amongst the subscription classes as well, and fold in some 7-minute routines here and there when I can. So that's my ammo. I'm sure everybody's got their own flow, but that's what worked great for me.
Wonderful. All right. Well, until our next tea session, I'll take one last sip of the lotus brick. May the mud always grow some beautiful lotus flowers to you all. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, everybody. So glad you could all make it today. The next Tea with Lee will be 2 weeks from now. Announcement will go out next week, and we'll get you all back in here for some more tea. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see some of you on the live class tomorrow, and see the rest of you hopefully soon. Bye, all.